So I was drinking some nice warm water because it's currently the morning, and I was thinking, what is the food equivalent of water? Because water is like, we just drink this really clear, really basic fluid, which is essentially one of the most basic elements of life. And then I thought maybe it's dirt, because you can eat dirt, you can kind of drink dirt, you can make it into a dirt milkshake. It's basically just minerals, essentially. So, yeah, maybe we can eat dirt if things go to shit. Either way, I thought that I was going to have to live off bark and grasses and what we call weeds, which are actually herbs. You just got to eat the right ones, and if it burns you, it's not good. Otherwise, you have to get used to the burn. Otherwise, you have to make sure you haven't eaten the ones that have absorbed pesticides. But anyway, the topic I wanted to talk about is to do with the dual nature of the world, which is the internet world and the physical world, which is actually just the spiritual world, or the non-physical world, the divine world, I guess you could say. Though, really it depends on how you want to break things up. Technically, it would be the physical astral world if we're going to go into it. So the physical astral world, which is the internet, and also the physical world, which is of course the physical material world. Now, these two worlds are slowly becoming one and the same, of course, but ultimately there will exist people who stick to a certain polarity. Now, I more or less grew up with the internet and in the internet. I remember, I think when I was about 8 years old or something, my mum had got a computer off her sister. Her sister was rich and was a bit of a nethead, so we first had this really old computer. I don't even know if it had Windows XP. I think it might have had 98. I don't remember, to be honest. And then eventually, I think when I was maybe around 10 or 11, we got a Windows XP PC, and I played RuneScape, and I thought it was just the best thing ever. Until eventually I got my own PC. I don't know if anyone's ever had to share a PC with their sibling. It is absolute hell. My RuneScape addictions were crawling at me, and Flash games or whatever we used to play back then, when the internet was more in its prime, its earlier stages. And yeah, eventually got my own PC when I was midway through my teenage years, so that was pretty nice. And I've always more or less lived online, but I do remember a world where the outside world existed. Before the scamdemic, of course, I would go to the grocery store on my bicycle and buy groceries, and I had a gym membership maybe several years ago. I remember I would go there, and that would be great. Of course, I had to kind of stop doing some things when I just didn't have the money, because you need money for the physical world. That's the thing. For the physical world, you need mainly two things. Number one is a source of transportation. Number two is money. Now, of course, if you are some kind of street trash, you can just, roam about in the outside world, yes, sure, without money and without a source of transportation, but you damn well want to have two of those. One alternative is to live in a city where you don't have to have a source of transportation so much, or you can get by on a bike or some kind of electric small vehicle, but ultimately you kind of want a car. Now, the internet world, as I said, I grew up on it, so I have to kind of realize that to get the things that I want in this world, to achieve the things I want, to some extent I have to use the internet to do it, and I've put a lot of my skills into the internet. For example, internet-based skills are audio-visual in nature. Programming is one of the main ones. I would suggest most people to learn programming, because then you can basically control the internet world. It's essentially internet magic. The physical world has its own way of magic as well, which is simply just controlling the ether and the pressure and such. to cause physical changes. Other skills are things like being able to design pictures, make videos, drawing, modeling, make music, game making. There are plenty of other things, like even like accounting skills, for example, being able to make books and write and all that stuff. So it's good to have some computer skills as well. If you look at a freelancing website, you'll really get a realistic perspective of what kind of computer skills are valued. The same way that if you go to a regular area which is offering jobs, you'll see what your local area offers, which is for work. My local area, we kind of have it's a bit of a shit area. It's more just customer service and certain trade jobs. And then if you go out a little bit, you'll find like the more trade centers, because I live in a very working class area. So you have to get this idea of you have to understand your world. Certain websites, for example, or apps are kind of like neighborhoods in reality, but in the what do you call it, the internet space, the internet space equivalent. So you have to understand like what app you're on, what website you're on, try out different websites. Similar with neighborhoods, it's hard to move, pick up your stuff and move, but maybe you do to find the correct job or world, place, community that is right for you. Some communities are like lower class and terrible, or some of them are higher class and terrible, full of degenerates or something like that. So you have to really find the right place. But the main idea of this video, to kind of go back to what I'm trying to talk about, is that there are these two worlds, which is the internet world and the physical world, and depending on what you have more experience in is depending where you will get the things that you want. Money, relationships, friendships, entertainment, satisfaction, etc. Older people would more or less, boomers and to some extent Gen X, will spend a lot of their time outside. And I never understood this. I was like, why do you do that? It's boring. As a kid, I would rather play a video game inside or be on the internet. I thought it was way more fun. But they're used to that. Yet they're used to going to a cafe or going to the hairdressers, going to the gym, going to their workplace, and they get satisfaction from it. They rule that land. That's why it can be very difficult if you have to enter a place where there's a lot of Gen X and boomer people, because they really rule that place and they have 40, 50 years, 30 years plus of experience on you. Now, not all hope is lost. If you are an internet person, you can develop more physical real world ability. Similarly, if you're a physical person, you can develop more internet ability. Now, I assume you're probably primarily an internet person if you're listening to this, but who knows? I would suggest to become more of a physical person, the best thing you could do is get a physical world job or start a physical world business. Otherwise, you can basically become some kind of street urchin where you just roam around the physical world, kind of like almost like a homeless person. You're just kind of roaming around the city or whatever. I figure eventually you'll start to understand yourself through the world around you, and you'll gravitate to certain areas. At least I noticed when I was out and about, and I actually went out and had friends and such, we would go to like a game shop to play Dungeons and Dragons and other various games, card games. Geez, what did we play? I don't even remember. Warhammer and all that. All these kinds of tabletop and imaginary RPG and card games. And that's more or less my kind of vibe. Is I like the creativity and the art, and I like the kind of strategy and the imagination and the mental thought and the fantasy aspect. I like all that stuff. And before that, I would just go to music shops and check out the instruments, because I was very interested in And then before that, it was like game shops. I check out these places. Now, of course, these are kind of the young people things. Older people, you would probably make friends with people in these areas, these shops, or you go to gyms or cafes or whatever, as I said. Or maybe you would try to enter some kind of business and do business there. I don't know. Depending on how much money you have and how much social experience will depend on how all these things go. Yeah, and socializing is kind of like the lubricant which allows you to access and navigate and have more opportunity in these places. And socializing relies on your internal ability of self-esteem, your kind of internal self-power, so to speak, your personal power. Now, the opposite on the internet is to basically check around the internet and see what kind of websites you like. Do you seem to gravitate around gaming websites? Do you gravitate around art websites? Do you gravitate around social media? And what type of stuff, creative stuff, do you do? Do you seem to make a lot of music? Do you make a lot of pictures? Do you program a lot? And these things will help you to understand yourself and to kind of understand what areas of reality that you like to gravitate towards. Otherwise, I guess you could write down lists of things that you want to try and want to do. Maybe you want to go hiking and you want to access that part of yourself and that part of reality, which is it's kind of like a solitary nature-based activity, because you can always think in physical reality there's like the nature and there's the man's will. I'm more probably adept to the nature side. I go outside and I hack away at the land and I chop up the trees and I tidy out the yard and all that stuff. I don't really, I'm not really interested in going to stores and socializing with people. So I guess you have to figure that out yourself. Similarly, on the internet, you have got like the social hubs, or you've got the just empty space of places to make stuff, areas to create and plan and all that. Anyway, I hope this video gave you a little bit of something to think about, something that you could apply to your own life, and I hope you enjoyed it. Otherwise, feel free to comment or email me. I've got my email comments down below. Check the links in the description. I've got plenty of things to buy, and divination services on Fiverr, of course. And if you want to donate, feel free. Otherwise, have a nice day.